Today, we shift gears. Why? We're gonna get this thing shifting. The shifter's on the column, so we're gonna have to get this end of it down here hooked up to the transmission. I know I got those parts around here somewhere in one of these totes. This arm here actually bolts to the base of that column. So we're going to actually end up pulling that column out a little bit because it's attached to the steering rack, and we got to slide this over it. So yeah, there's that. Also, I don't remember what the spring is for. I know this is important for some reason. That's what happens when it takes forever to build a dang truck. All this stuff here is the linkage that would go from this arm to the transmission. A couple hang joint thingies, nuts, bolts, all the stuff. Still don't remember what this spring is for. Yeah, I know that I do have a spring around here somewhere that I really need to find, because it goes inside the column here, so that shifter arm on the column goes back to where it needs to be instead of just flopping around. Which also reminds me, we need to find that steering or that shifter arm. This is something we'll need too. It's a floor mount for the column. None of this stuff is going to matter if I can't find that shifter arm. Where the heck did I put it? Oh, I got another box over here. We're going to need that. That's for a horn ring. Don't need that right now though. We don't need that today. But we do need this. Found it. What I haven't found yet though is that little spring I need for that column. I mean, I don't think this is it. It just seems like this is too big. I think it's a little spring. Yeah, no way. This is way too big. No. Little hole in there that spring needs to go to. And not only do we need that spring, we need the pin that goes in the column through that arm that holds it in place. If I was a betting man, I'd bet they were together somewhere. But where? So I found this. I was hoping that pin would be in here because it's got an extra indicator. It's got an extra horn ring thing. And here's another one of those springs, and I immediately figured out what it was. It goes on the column before you put the nut on there. It's got this little spring in here. I don't think that's it. Might be it. I still don't have that pin. God, I'd probably put it somewhere where I wouldn't lose it. Where would that be? So here's an I Did It shift lever spring replacement part for $6. Here's what it looks like. But I know I have this somewhere. But I guess at least I know that I can order another one. I'm gonna keep looking a little bit, and if I don't find it, we'll just move on without it. I mean, whatever. We still need to hook it up to the transmission and all that too, so this spring isn't going to totally stop what we're doing today. You'll never guess where I found this. In there. Why the heck was it in there? so I wouldn't lose it, I'm sure. Spring. I found a lot of stuff. I found the baby moons that are going on this. All the hardware that I responsibly put in bags and labeled. Found one of my kids' old shoes from when they were little. As far as that pin goes, I'm not super concerned about that. I can run down to Ace Hardware and find something for that. For now, we can just drop a bolt down in it or something just so it has something to pivot on, and we'll put what belongs in there later on. You know what I'm saying? Know what I mean, Vern? What I'm saying is we can move on. We got to get this thing up in the air. We got to get it up in the air because we got to get at the transmission. Actually, I'm going to put that shifter arm on first. Well, that was working, but we are not off to a good start here, obviously, today, because that wasn't lined up right in there, and I lost the spring inside the dang column. In there. I quit. Just kidding. We don't quit. We got to pull that column out of there anyway, so we're going to pull the column out, try to dump that spring out of it, slide this guy over it, put it back in. These are just finger tight, just not the easiest to get at. Oh, there we go. You hear it rolling around in there. I see it. It's right there. It's like playing that game Operation. So making sure we're in park here, there's a little spot in there where this tab needs to go. Right there. You probably can't see it with the camera on the lights, but it's there, believe me. And then that spring holds this arm in place, and all that prevents it from coming out of park until you pull it back. And I do believe there should be another spot. Yeah, right there. There's another spot when you're right around neutral, so that way it prevents you from putting it in reverse or park when you're driving. But anyway, we're going to want to put this in park and try this spring again. This is kind of like putting the operation guy's parts back in. So the spring is in place. Now we just need that arm, and then we got to try to put this tab in that recess area while keeping an eye on the spring and making sure that doesn't pop off again, and then putting our pin in it, or in this case our stainless machine screw. Well, that was not fun. That was pretty difficult. To tell you the truth, I still don't know if it's right. But I mean, it's in there. It's springy. I'm thinking maybe this screw we have in there just isn't quite big enough, so it's not sitting in there tight enough. I'm going with that. We're going to continue on. If this doesn't work once we get it all back in there, then I will figure it out then. We have one stupid problem that we have to deal with here. This joint here is a weld-on unit. Cool. Except this isn't on there. This will not slip over that joint. Son of a... It's one reason we had to pull this out, because I got to figure this out. Went and done cut a slit in it. If this doesn't work, I have another one of these. That was not the ideal way to do this. Not only that, how are we going to get it through the hole now? That one, it's not going to fit through that hole with that arm on it. We're going to have to take that back off, put the column through the hole, mount it to the dash, get the column all situated, and then we'll have to get the truck up in the air and deal with that and the linkage. We might as well finish up this column mount where it mounts to the dash, because right now we're just using this U-bolt. So I want to do a little extra with this. And I want to repaint this thing at some time too. We are on a roll today, aren't we? That's okay. That's all right. We don't cry over spilt beer. We'll figure it out. I don't feel like we did a whole lot by taking that column out and then having to mess around with putting it back in, but it's in there. It is back in there and just dangling here because we have the column drop, column mount, whatever you might want to call it. We have it over there. We do have it attached to the steering rack again. We have the set screws on both the steering rack side and the column side, both with blue Loctite and nylock set nuts, keeper nuts. That would be a jam nut. Those are tight. Definitely gonna need that touch up on the paint. It's okay. Lots of things are. But what I want to do now is take our column mount, which is, like I said, just this U-bolt, and there's not a whole lot of surface area to grab a hold of that column, even though it does a fantastic job. What I'm thinking, we can take the rest of this. You know, last time we cut that piece out of there and we used it for this. Well, I'm thinking we cut a little bit more out of it to put along the bottom of this. It'll give us a lot more surface area to grab a hold of that steering column. And then on the inside of it, I have an idea for that. I think that's looking about right. We'll just give it a good welding like that. Ooh, doggy, that's hot. We're gonna get a little primer and a little bit of paint on this. Should be good to put this back on, and then that column will be in there. That means for good. Then we can get this thing up in the air and get that shift linkage up, set up, and then that'll be done. Yeah, done. One of my favorite words lately. All right, that'll do. Well, I had to go grab another battery, but here it is. Just rattle can primer and paint, nothing special. So here's my idea with that. Grip tape. Jessup to be exact. I mean, any grip kind of tape would work, or this. Like a stickum sandpaper, file board paper. But I want to use grip tape for a skateboard because that's who I am. Was once a skateboarder, always a skateboarder. Once a mini trucker, always a mini trucker. Maybe we should do a whole mini trucking in your 40s episode. Don't call it a midlife crisis. That's kind of dry to the touch, but I think I want to let it sit for quite a while before I stick that on there. I think I might be getting a little carried away with this one. I mean, clouds, palm trees, yeah, whatever. So normally I do one line on this side, one line on this side. Seems to work out better for me that way. I don't know, muscle memory. But this time around, I did the white, I did that whole side. And now I gotta try to duplicate it on this side. Doesn't matter how you do it, you just do it. Grab my nuts. So far so good, right? I feel like I can only spin these nuts like a quarter turn at a time. All right, that ain't going nowhere. Usually when I get a little carried away, I may not like it so much, but this is kind of cool. I like it. I think that it's time to actually get this thing back in the air. What is that, like third, fourth time I said that? I just gotta get down here and find this airline. We're gonna have to crawl under this thing, so we're gonna need some jack stands. Maybe get it up a little bit higher. So let's go find a jack. Remember this guy? We gotta try to get that guy on there now. Hopefully we didn't screw it up by cutting it in half. All right, so there's our steering shaft and our column right there. That means we gotta get this on that somehow, like that. Ow! Hit me right in the face. All right, well, I got that arm on there. 3 of the 4 bolts anyway, screws. 4th one was being a pain, probably because we cut it in half, but we'll get it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it right now because we might have to clock that thing into a different position. And I also took this arm off so we can rotate this thing freely from underneath. Problem is, I dropped the spring in there again. Dang it. That's right, we'll have to loosen this up and rotate this around, or maybe I could stick a little magnet in there and get it, but I'm not worried about that right now. We'll worry about that after we get this thing shifting. So we have this gear selector arm. I already put the splined part on the transmission. Did that a while ago. But this will go on that. This bolt goes in here, slides all the way through, and it gets kept inside there. We got washer, heim joint, another washer, nylock nut. And we'll just get that kind of snug because this thing will get positioned in here somewhere once we figure that out. Right now we're going to go all the way down with it. Then on that is this guy. And that has 2 set screws on it because this rod goes in there. And then we'll tighten those down on it. We'll get some blue Loctite on all this. But for now, we get it working, then we take it apart, Loctite it, tighten everything up, get to shifting. This rod is way too long right now. Like way too long. Well, we got this arm slid onto the splines. Got it in park. And I'm going to start with it not totally parallel to the ground, but down just a hair. That way it's got a little bit of leverage to start pushing right away. I don't know, I could go up with it and it'd be all right, but So I'm just going to kind of hold this rod about where it would be if it was attached to our column. And we're all the way down. Okay, so now if I pull up like we're going to go into park. Gosh, that seems like it would work like that. It really does. So I'm actually just going to take a measurement from the hole in the column arm to our gear selector arm here. Looking at about a foot. Park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, and dang it. We are getting super close here, but this is super annoying. It's like splitting hairs to get this to work right, because I want the indicator on the column to read right. I want it to shift into all gears, obviously. I think I got it pretty good, except very end, and it's hitting the floor too. You might have to put a little bit of a bend in this rod, which is fine. So if you had it bend just a little bit right here. Yeah, man, there's a marker now. We're gonna, son of a, put a bend right there. I hope that'll work. We're dang close to getting this right. It's just trial and error. Lots of trial and error and hoping we didn't cut it too short. Start with just a little bend. You can always bend it more. Here goes nothing. We're in park. We got it kind of where I had it pretty close before, and now we're gonna clear the floor, hopefully. Let's give it a shot. Park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2, 1. Ha! All right, well, it's working down here just like this. And our indicator should be about right. I mean, I don't care if it's like off by a little bit, just as long as it's close. Let's check this out. All right, so check it out. We should be in 1, 2, drive, overdrive. We should be in overdrive on that indicator. Let's see. We are not. Like, not even close. We're halfway between park and reverse. Okay. But we know this is going to work. It's just going to be fine tuning that, because the column has to rotate a certain amount compared to the rotation of the gear selector on the transmission to get that to work. Honestly, if we didn't have that indicator, this would be fine. I'd tighten it up right now. But we'll keep going. So if we're in driving the transmission, and we'll just call it reverse, that means probably need to shorten the rod a little bit. All right, so we can rotate this around because we don't have that arm in it. Let's see how close we are. We're in park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2. Oh, everything is lining up and it's shifting into every gear, but it's like just right before it catches first. Park, reverse, yeah. All All right, so what does that mean? So many different things we could do. We just need to get a little bit more throw on the transmission. And hopefully we don't mess our indicator up too much. Like I said, I don't care all that much. But I want it to be right. You gotta respect the truck, you know what I mean? Things gotta be right. So I lengthened our rod a little bit by twisting this heim joint. And we're in park. So park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2, 1. Okay, everything shifts smoothly. I'm gonna go up. 1, 2, drive. Now I'm gonna try to get it all the way down to 1 using the column. 2, 1. Oh yeah. Okay, that worked. Let's get this back into park and try it up top. Park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2. Son of a just can't get that. So close though, so close. And our markers were pretty dang close. So we'll extend that rod just a little bit more. Go. Park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2, 1. Another adjustment we could do is move this heim joint in a little bit. I worry though if we do that, it's just gonna be too hard to get it out of park. I suppose if we did that and then lengthened the rod a little bit and then this arm got clocked a little differently, that might work. Well, let's try this. Park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2. Why? It's like it just needs a little bit more. Okay, so I think I figured it out. Well, we'll see. After we lengthened that rod, it was hitting the floor again. So I put a little bit more of a bend in it, put this back together, I think. Yep. Okay, let's try this again. Indicator is at park, reverse, neutral, overdrive. Yeah, it's looking good so far. We're in overdrive. Marker's right on overdrive. Drive. 2. All right, here we go. Are we gonna do it? Yeah. 1. Let's try this again. Park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2, 1. Awesome, let's lock it down right there. Oh, we gotta put this back in park. There we go, park. I'm gonna put a mark where this heim joint is and where it is on this spline. I don't really trust these little set screws in there, so I'm welding this sleeve onto that rod. Last thing we want to do is try to put it in park and this rod pulls out of there. That'll hold that. The other thing I did was I put some washers in between this heim joint and that sleeve so this thing can actually tighten up. I think that worked out pretty well. I used the washers because there was no room in between them for the jam nut that's supposed to go in there. This has worked out perfect because it's nice and snug right where it needs to be. When that cools, we'll put it back in one more time, test it, pull it back out, and get some paint on this. Since we welded it, it's not protected. And I would like to get this in there permanently so we don't ever have to mess with it again. So while that cools, we'll play with some paints. So I sprayed that with a black rattle can. I even gave it a coat of clear. Not good clear, rattle can clear. got that out in the sun drying. Should be able to throw that on in a couple minutes. I think this is probably dry enough. So we got all our parts, washers, nylock nut. Those all go on the column side. We already got it tight here on this arm. Bolt, washer, bushings, washer, heim joint, washer. Oh, lost the washer. Washer, nylock nut. Wrench and a ratchet and give that a good tightening. We got that on there. Now there's a set screw on this arm. Unfortunately, it's on the top side. Shift it all the way down. Oh yeah, there you go. Hey, no big deal. We'll give this one more test up here. We don't have the spring in there. Well, it's in there, but it's not where we want it to be. I did order the pin that goes in this to hold it all together. $6 for my Did It steering columns. $14 shipping. Anyway, park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2, 1. Sweet. We got it. Man, that was a bigger pain in the butt than it should have been, I feel like. But anyway, let's get this truck back down on the ground. It looks stupid on jack stands. There we go. We can shift. Oh, you know what we forgot to do is count the splines on the transmission. Dang it. I wanted to count the splines on the transmission so I could get the right yoke. That's all right. It's not like we need it right away anyway. Got no drive shaft. Rear end's not even really where I want it. We did good for this weekend. LTsCustomGarage.com for cool shirts, pinstripe art. See you in this one.